strike to utterly destroy the Iranian nuclear weapons program once and for all, and to do so by Memorial Day or perhaps July 4th at the latest. Now, these American advisors and friends of the president, along with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior Israeli officials, argue that the Iranian regime has never been so weak. Its nuclear sites have never been so vulnerable because Israel took out all the air defenses around them last fall. And yet, they're saying that the time to take decisive action is running out. We're running out of time. If Trump doesn't act soon, they say, Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, could secretly order his scientists to make a dash for a breakout capacity. What does that mean? It means that Khamenei could order his team to suddenly, quickly, and secretly accelerate towards building 6 fully operational nuclear warheads with the highly enriched uranium that they already have. What's more, if President Trump doesn't act soon, they say, what if Russia or Communist China or both decide to suddenly sign a NATO-like treaty with the Iranian regime, declaring that if any nation, the United States, Israel, or anyone else, launches military attacks against Iran, then Moscow and Beijing will consider these attacks against themselves and will be engaged in war with Iran against anyone that attacks. That is a horrible scenario. And these advisors, these friends of Trump, are saying, look, the clock is ticking. The time is now. Don't get suckered into a never-ending round of Iranian lies and tricks in some extended negotiations. Attack now, they're saying. That's what they're telling Trump. Attack now, destroy the Iranian threat once and for all, or it could be too late soon. It could be too late soon. Now, the good news is that President Trump is listening to them. That's why he sent B-52 bombers, some of the biggest bomber aircraft the United States has. He's pre-positioned them near Iran, along with other bombers and fighter jets. He put them in the Middle East. Why? Because he's getting ready for war. He just sent 2 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups to the Middle East. Why? Because he's preparing for war. He just sent American missile defense batteries to the Middle East. Why? To get ready for war. Now, at the same time, Trump also wants a deal. Like, what? No, stay with me. Trump sent a letter to the Iranian leadership giving Tehran's leadership 2 months to come to the table and negotiate a deal, a real deal, a good deal, one that gets rid of, dismantles Iran's entire nuclear weapons program, or face the wrath of the United States and Israel. And Iran is listening. Iran said, okay, we'll talk. And that's why last Saturday, President Trump's chief international envoy, his chief negotiator, Steve Witkoff, began high-level negotiations with the Iranian regime in the tiny Gulf country of Oman. Now, how did the initial round of talks go? Well, here's what President Trump said Saturday on Air Force One.
Give us the readout on the Iran talks, sir.
I think they're going okay.
What was your
because it doesn't. Nothing matters until you get it done. So I don't like talking about it, but it's going okay. The Iran situation is going pretty good.
Now I have to tell you that Netanyahu was blindsided last week when President Trump told him over lunch at the White House that he was beginning direct talks with Iran, and then announced such direct talks to the press while Trump and Bibi sat side by side in the Oval Office. Look, Netanyahu is a smart guy, very experienced and cool under pressure. He's not going to signal his deep anxieties over the United States, President Trump opening direct talks with Iranians when Bibi is nearly positive that the Iranians have no intention of actually dismantling their entire nuclear program and letting the Trump team box it up and cart it back to the United States. Bibi is not going to look as worried on camera in that room as he feels. Yes, I think he's very worried that the U.S. in theory, could get duped by the Iranian regime, just like Iran pulled the wool over the eyes of President Obama in the first Iran nuclear deal. But Bibi's not going to show that, right? So instead, Bibi signaled his strong support for President Trump's approach. Take a look at this clip.
And of course, we also discussed Iran. Look, we're both united in the goal that Iran does not ever get nuclear weapons. If it can be done diplomatically in a full way, the way it was done in Libya, I think that would be a good thing. But whatever happens, we have to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons.
What did Bibi mean by the Libyan model that he just referred to? Well, he was recalling that after September 11th, 2001, when then President George W. Bush invaded Afghanistan to destroy al-Qaeda and bring down the Taliban, and then invaded Iraq to end the threat, the perceived threat of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and to bring down Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, the leaders of Libya then got very, very nervous. In fact, Libya's crazy dictator at the time, Muammar Gaddafi, became so nervous, so paranoid, that his country, Libya, was going to be the next to be invaded, to be attacked by President Bush, that Gaddafi voluntarily offered to let the United States come into Libya, dismantle Libya's entire nuclear weapons program, which was much more advanced than the U.S. realized, box it up, and take it back to America. And that's exactly what Bush did. He peacefully ended the Libyan nuclear threat once and for all without firing another shot. That's about the only deal Netanyahu could accept, this sort of Libyan model, okay? And rightly so. That's a good model if it works, if Iran is really willing to do that. But look, no American president has ever been tougher on Iran than Donald Trump. And no American president has ever been more pro-Israel than Donald Trump. But I need to be honest with you. President Trump is sending mixed signals. Take a look at what he said in the Oval Office just a few days ago.
Mr. President, on Iran, you said the other day that if they do not agree to a potential nuclear deal, that it would be very dangerous for them. What specifically
Well, they can't have a nuclear weapon.
did you mean? Military action, though, if they don't agree?
Oh, if necessary? Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have
Do you have a deadline for these
Yeah,
talks?
I do.
and
You're talking about with Iran?
yeah,
Yeah, I
they're
do.
saying it's not
Do you have something definitive this weekend, or do you see this as the start of a process?
It's a start.
Do you have a timeline?
We have a little time, but we don't have much time
When is it starting?
because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Is it
Can't let them have a
going to be
nuclear weapon.
there?
And we're going to let them thrive. I want them to thrive. I want Iran to be great. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon.
Okay, you just heard it. Trump is being crystal clear that he is willing to bomb Iran if he has to. And he's willing to work very closely with Israel on that bombing campaign. He's being crystal clear that there is not much time for Tehran to cut a deal. But he's also saying that he wants to be very generous to Iran. If they make a good deal, he'll lift the economic sanctions that are currently bankrupting them, and he'll let Iran become great again. I'm going to let Iran become great again if they make a deal. They'll become rich again. They'll become great again. That is what worries Israel. Not my impression so much, maybe. But Bibi Netanyahu and his senior team are worried because they think, why do we want to make Iran's leadership great again? Why would we let them become rich? Yes, we want a deal. It's better to do diplomacy than to bomb Iran. But why would you let the Iranian regime off the hook? Because even without a nuclear weapons program, the Iranian regime is the most dangerous state sponsor of terror on the entire planet. Right? We don't want such a wicked regime to get rich. We don't want them to have wealth pouring in because the economic sanctions have been removed. Right? I mean, they're just going to use that money to do what? To fund terror proxy organizations like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others, other jihadist groups in Iraq and Syria. The Iranian people are desperately hoping that the United States will create the conditions for the Iranian regime to collapse and be replaced by either a robust democracy or by a benign, moderate monarchy led by the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, right, the son of the late Shah, a man who wants to make peace with Israel. He wants a peace treaty that he wants to call the Cyrus Accord. That's what he wants to call. This is a man whom I had the opportunity, the honor actually, of meeting and interviewing for the Rosenberg Report and All Israel News when he made his first ever visit to Israel a few years ago. So, what exactly are we heading towards? Is Trump really going to make a deal with Tehran, a deal that could maybe dismantle the Iranian nuclear program, but could prop up the Iranian regime? Or is Trump really willing to launch a massive military strike to destroy the Iranian nuclear threat once and for all? Honestly, I don't think that President Trump even knows at this point, okay? He's setting up himself for both scenarios. One reinforces the other. I don't think he knows what he plans to do yet. So please, pray for peace, but prepare for war.